So have you ever run into a situation where making things better for one person?
Well, it seemed to make things worse for someone else.
Oh, definitely. Or maybe the opposite, where you actually find a win-win or at least a win-no-lose kind of solution.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into a concept that really helps understand those dynamics. It's called Pareto efficiency.
Right. It comes from economics, welfare economics specifically, but wow, does it have reach? It applies way beyond just money.
It really does. So this deep dive is based on exploring the sources, mainly a pretty thorough Wikipedia exploration of Pareto efficiency.
And our mission really is to unpack it. Get into the details, see where it's used, clear up some common mix-ups.
Yeah, give you that shortcut to feeling properly informed. So let's start right at the beginning. What is this thing?
Well, it's a concept that, honestly, it makes you rethink what optimal even means in a lot of
We
situations.
can see that. It's named after Vilfredo Pareto, right?
Mm.
An Italian guy.
Yeah.
Engineer and economist. That's the one. Back around the late 1800s, early 1900s, he was looking into economic efficiency, how income was distributed.
And apparently he first called it optimal, but efficiency fits better. Why is that?
Yeah, efficiency is definitely more accurate because it's not saying this is the single absolute best outcome for everybody. Not at all.
Okay.
Instead, it points to a set of outcomes where, at least one person might think it's the best for them, but it doesn't mean everyone's thrilled.
Okay. So let's break down the terms. What's a Pareto improvement?
Right. So a Pareto improvement is simply a change where you make at least one person better off
Okay.
without making anyone else worse off. Not even a tiny bit worse off than they were before.
So someone gains, nobody loses. Simple enough.
Exactly. Think of it like a move that's just better, or at least no worse for anyone, and definitely better for someone.
And then Pareto efficiency. That's when you run out of those improvements.
Precisely. Once you've made all the possible Pareto improvements, you hit a state of Pareto efficiency, or Pareto optimality. They mean the same thing.
So at that point, any change you make to help one person has to hurt someone else.
You got it. Resources are allocated in such a way that you literally can't rearrange things to benefit one party without causing some harm, some loss to another.
Okay, that makes sense.
And just quickly, in social choice theory, sometimes you hear this called the unanimity principle.
Unanimity, like everyone agrees.
Sort of. If everyone prefers option A to option B, or they're at least indifferent,
Yeah.
so nobody actively dislikes A compared to B, then the group as a whole should also prefer A or be indifferent.
Right. Okay, that connects. But here's where I think people get tripped up, myself included sometimes. This isn't about fairness, is it?
Not at all, and that is the critical distinction. Pareto efficiency versus equity or fairness, completely different things.
Let's use that pie example they always talk about. It seems to clear things up.
Yeah, it's perfect. So imagine three people, one pie. You cut it into three equal slices. It seems fair, right?
Yep.
Equitable.
Sounds fair to me.
Okay. But now, what if you cut the pie in half, give one half to person A, the other half to person B, and person C gets nothing?
Well, that sounds pretty unfair.
And it is unfair, but guess what? It's still Pareto efficient.
Ah, why?
Because think about it. Person C didn't lose anything. They never had a slice to start with, right? And for persons A and B who do have pie, can you make one of them better off, give them more pie, without taking pie away from the other, making them worse off?
No, I guess not. If the whole pie is gone.
Exactly. You can't improve one without harming the other. So even though it's massively unequal, that two-way split is Pareto efficient.
Wow, okay. That really highlights the difference. Efficiency does not equal fairness.
Not even close sometimes.
So if it's not about fairness, where does this concept actually help us? Where does it apply? Because you said it goes beyond just, basic economics.
Oh, it does. In economics itself, though, it's fundamental. Thinking about how resources are allocated, how markets work.
Like in production?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
For production, you'd say a set of outputs is Pareto efficient if you can't rejig the inputs, the labor, the materials, to make more of one product without automatically making less of another product.
Okay. And this leads to some big economic ideas, right? Like the welfare theorems.
Absolutely. The first welfare theorem is a big one. It basically says, look, if you have a bunch of ideal conditions,
Like what?
like markets for everything, no side effects like pollution, what economists call externalities, perfect competition, everyone knows everything,
Mm.
a fantasy world, basically.
Right, sounds like it.
If you have all that, then a competitive market will naturally arrive at a Pareto efficient outcome. Kenneth Arrow and Gerard Debreu proved this mathematically.
But that's a lot of ifs.
A huge number of ifs.
Yeah.
And that's where the Greenwald-Stiglitz theorem comes in. It says, hey, in the real world, where information isn't perfect, where markets aren't complete, guess what? Outcomes are generally not Pareto efficient.
Okay. So there's usually room for improvement, theoretically.
Usually, yes. And that inefficiency, that gap, is what we often call market failure. The free market isn't distributing resources effectively, meaning there's likely a Pareto improvement possible.
Like the cigarette tax example, trying to fix a market failure.
Exactly. Cigarettes cause external costs, healthcare, etc. The tax tries to make smokers internalize some of that cost, maybe reduce consumption, maybe fund healthcare, pushing towards a more efficient outcome, even if it makes the smoker worse off financially in one sense. It's complex.
And there's a second welfare theorem, too.
Yeah, kind of the reverse. It suggests you can reach any Pareto optimal outcome using a competitive market if you could start by redistributing wealth perfectly with lump sum transfers. Another big if.
Okay, so economics is foundational, but you mentioned other fields.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Take engineering. Multi-objective optimization.
Trying to balance different goals, like making something strong and lightweight.
Exactly. Those goals often conflict. Pareto efficiency helps engineers figure out the trade-offs. They identify something called the Pareto front, or Pareto set.
Which is?
It's the set of all the design choices that are Pareto efficient, meaning for any design on that front, you can't improve one characteristic, like making it lighter, without making another characteristic worse, like reducing its strength.
So it narrows down the options.
Massively. Instead of looking at every possible design, engineers can focus just on this efficient set and make informed decisions about which trade-off is best for their specific needs. Very practical.
And public policy, how does it play there?
Well, it's influenced a lot of modern microeconomic thinking, even debates about things like market socialism.
But applying it in the real world sounds tricky.
Incredibly tricky. You have things like asymmetric information, one person knows more than another in a deal, or moral hazard people taking risks because someone else bears the cost. These mess things up.
Right.
But the idea of Pareto efficiency still gives a framework. It helps analyze market failures, like we said, maybe suggesting solutions like property rights or specific taxes. It also highlights the problem of redistribution, meaning that taxes and transfers, which are needed for equity, often create Pareto inefficiency because they usually make someone worse off to make someone else better off. So policymakers try to design tax systems that minimize those negative impacts, ideally avoiding making anyone worse off if possible, though that's hard.
Okay, economics, engineering, policy. What else? You mentioned something really surprising earlier, biology.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? It's been applied to understanding natural selection and gene evolution.
How on earth does Pareto efficiency apply to genes?
It's pretty cool, actually. Studies, particularly in bacteria, found that genes seem to be optimized along two main axes. They can be cheap to build resource efficient, or they can be easy to read and translate into proteins translation efficient.
Okay, two different kinds of efficiency.
Right, and natural selection seems to push the genes that get used a lot, the highly expressed ones, towards a sort of Pareto frontier. They become good at both resource use and translation efficiency, or at least reach a point where improving one hurts the other.
So they're on that trade-off curve, like the engineering design.
Exactly. And what's more, the genes found near this Pareto frontier tend to evolve more slowly.
Why?
It suggests they've reached a highly optimized state, conferring a real selective advantage. Pinkering further might actually make things worse overall. It's like evolution found a Pareto-efficient solution.
That's fascinating, an economic concept playing out in genetics. Okay, so we've seen the core idea and its broad reach. But there are nuances, right? Different types of Pareto efficiency.
Oh yes, it gets more detailed. For instance, back in that multi-objective optimization context, like engineering, finding the single best solution is hard.
Why?
Because Pareto dominance only gives you a partial order. Some solutions might be incomparable. You can't say one is definitively better than the other across all criteria.
So how you compare them?
Well, you say solution A, Pareto dominates solution B, if A is no worse than B on any goal, and is strictly better on at least one goal. But if A is better on goal 1, but worse on goal 2 compared to B, then neither dominates the other. They're just different trade-offs on that Pareto front.
Got it. And then there is weak Pareto efficiency. How's that different from the regular or strong version we discussed?
It's a bit looser. A situation is weak Pareto efficient if there's no way to make every single person strictly better off simultaneously.
Every single person. Not just at least one person better off without hurting others.
Right. It's a lower bar. Let's use Alice and George again, allocating two resources.
Yeah.
Alice values them 10, George values them 5.
Okay.
If we give everything to Alice, the outcome is 10, 0 in terms of utility. Now, is there another allocation where both Alice and George are strictly better off? No.
Right, because George can't get better without Alice potentially getting less than 10.
So 10, 0 is weak Pareto optimal. But is it strong Pareto optimal? Remember, strong means you can't make anyone better off without making someone else worse off.
Ah, okay. What if we gave the second resource to George? Alice still has the first, worth 10. George gets the second, worth 5. So 10, 5.
Exactly. The outcome, 10, 5, makes George better off 5 instead of 0,
Right.
and leaves Alice no worse off, still 10. Since we could make that improvement from 10, the original state wasn't strong Pareto optimal, even though it was weak Pareto optimal.
Okay, subtle but important difference. What about constrained Pareto efficiency? Sounds more realistic.
It is. It acknowledges that planners, like governments, don't have godlike powers or perfect information. They often face the same limits as individuals. They can't perfectly observe everything. People have private information.
Leading to things like moral hazard or adverse selection, like you mentioned.
Precisely. So, under constrained Pareto efficiency, the planner can only use rules that are based on observable stuff, or anonymous rules that apply to everyone. They can't tailor rules based on hidden characteristics.
Right.
If, given these constraints on the tools the planner can use, there's no allowed rule that can improve on the current market outcome via a Pareto improvement, then that outcome is called constrained Pareto optimal. It's efficient within the limits of what's actually possible for the planner to do.
That makes a lot of sense for real-world policy. Okay, what's fractional Pareto efficiency?
This one comes up in fair division problems, like dividing items. It's actually a stronger concept than standard Pareto efficiency. It considers what happens if you can split items.
Splitting items, like cutting the pie into even smaller pieces.
Or dividing chores or land or computational resources, yeah. Let's use Alice and George again. 2 items. Alice values them 3, 2. George values them 4.
Okay, George really wants that first item.
He does. Now, if we can't split items, giving the first item to George, utility 4, and the second to Alice, utility 2, seems reasonable. Utility profile 2, 4, if we list Alice first. Can we improve this without splitting? No, so it's Pareto efficient.
But fractionally?
Well, what if we could split the first item? Say, we give Alice the second item, value 2, plus maybe 14 of the first item, value 34 for her, and George gets 34 of the first item, value 3 for him. Alice's total is now 2.75, George's is 3, the profile is 2.753. This isn't better for both than 2, 4. Let me rethink that example from the outline.
Okay, take your time.
Right, let's redo the fractional example cleanly. Alice values items 3, 2, George 4, 1. Let's allocate item 1 to Alice, item 2 to George. Utilities are 3, 1. This is standard PE if we can't split.
Okay, 3, 1.
Now, what if we can split? Consider splitting the first item. Give Alice half of item 1, value 1.5, and the whole second item, value 2. Her total is 3.5. Give George the other half of item 1, value 2. The new profile is 3.52.
Now compare 3.52 to the original 3, 1.
Alice is better off 3.53, and George is better off 2.1. So the original allocation, 3.1, while standard PE, was not fractionally PE because splitting allowed for Pareto improvement.
Got it. Splitting opens up new possibilities for improvement. That's cool. What about randomness, ex ante versus ex post?
Right, this applies when decisions involve chance, like a lottery. Ex post means after the fact. An allocation process is ex post PE if every possible outcome, once the dice are rolled, is Pareto efficient.
So whatever happens, the end result is efficient.
Yes. Now, ex ante means before the fact. A random process, like a lottery, is ex ante PE. If the lottery itself, considering the expected utilities for everyone, is Pareto efficient. You can't devise another lottery that gives everyone a higher expected utility.
And ex ante is stronger.
Yes, ex ante implies ex post,
Okay.
but not the other way around. You can have a lottery where every outcome is PV, so it's ex post PE, but the lottery itself might be dominated by another lottery in terms of expected value, so it's not ex ante PE.
Can you give that car house example?
Sure. Alice values car at 2, house at 3. George values car at 2, house at 9. George really wants the house.
Okay.
Lottery 1. Flip a coin. Heads. Alice gets car 2. George gets house 9. Tails. Alice gets house 3. George gets car 2. Both outcomes, 2, 9, and 3, 2, are Pareto efficient. You can't improve one person without hurting the other in their specific scenario.
Right.
So lottery 1 is ex post PE.
Makes sense.
But what are the expected utilities? Alice gets 2 plus 3, 2 equals 2.5. George gets 9 plus 2, 2, lose 5.5. Expected profile, 2.5, 5.5. Now consider lottery 2. We just give the house to George, utility 9 for him, Then we flip a coin for the car.
Yeah.
Heads, Alice gets a 2. Tails, George gets a 2. The outcomes are 2, 9, or 0, 11. Wait, let me use the outlines lottery too.
No problem.
Okay, outlines lottery 2. Always give the car to Alice, value 2 for her. Then 13 chance Alice also gets a house, value 3. 23 chance George gets the house, value 9.
Okay, different setup.
Expected utility for Alice. She always gets the car. 2 plus 13 chance of the house, 313. 1. Total expected 3. Expected utility for George. He gets 0 from the car, plus 23 chance of the house, 923 equals 6. Total expected equals 6. So lottery 2 gives expected utilities, 3, 6. Compare that to lottery 1's, 2.5, 5.5.
Lottery 2 gives higher expected utility to both Alice and George.
Exactly. So lottery 2 Pareto dominates lottery 1 in the ex-ante sense, based on expectations. This means lottery 1, even though it was ex-post PE, was not ex-ante PE.
Wow, okay. That distinction is crucial when dealing with uncertainty. So many variations.
There are others too, like Bayesian PE for incomplete info, ordinal PE for just ranking items that gets deep. But those cover the main variants.
It's definitely a rich concept, but we also need to talk about the downsides, the criticisms, the things people get wrong about it.
Absolutely crucial. The biggest misconception, we touched on it, is confusing Pareto efficiency with overall societal good or optimization.
Right. It's not the same as making society best in a moral or equitable sense.
Not at all. Societal optimization usually involves value judgments about fairness, equality, well-being. Things Pareto efficiency deliberately ignores. Remember the pie.
Can't forget the pie. Or think about, say, school funding based on local property taxes. You get huge disparities.
Right. That unequal situation might be Pareto efficient. You can't easily make the poorer district better off without taking funds, making the richer district worse off. But is it societally optimal? Most would say no. Achieving more equity requires redistribution, which likely isn't a Pareto improvement.
Okay, what other criticisms are there?
Well, some argue it can be used, maybe unintentionally, as an ideological tool.
How so?
The idea that free markets naturally lead to efficiency, even just Pareto efficiency, can sometimes downplay structural problems.
Right.
Like if unemployment is seen just as a temporary blip away from efficiency, maybe it doesn't get the policy attention it needs as a persistent structural issue.
That's a serious point. It connects back to the fairness issue too, doesn't it?
Definitely. The core criticism remains. It just doesn't care about fair distribution. An economy where a tiny fraction of people have almost everything and the rest have almost nothing. That can be Pareto efficient.
If you can't make the poor better off without taking anything from the rich.
Yeah.
The pie example again. 2 get slices, 1 gets none. PE, but not fair.
Then there's the liberal paradox, pointed out by Amartya Sen.
What's that?
It shows that if people have preferences not just about their own stuff, but about what other people do or have, like if I care about your choices, then the goal of achieving Pareto efficiency can actually clash with the goal of respecting individual liberty.
So efficiency might require overriding someone's personal choices if those choices affect others' preferences.
Potentially, yes. It highlights a tension between collective efficiency and individual freedom when preferences are interdependent.
Interesting. Anything else?
Just one more point some academics make. Maybe the focus on Pareto efficiency crowded out discussion of other ways to think about efficiency in economics. Because it's so foundational, maybe other potentially useful criteria didn't get as much airtime, especially if they could ultimately be related back to Pareto anyway.
Okay, so we've gone from the basics through applications into the weeds with variations and now through the major criticisms. That's quite a journey.
It really covers the landscape, I think, from Vilfredo Pareto's initial idea to its use in biology and the problems it doesn't solve.
Yeah, hopefully this deep dive gives you, our listener, a much richer, more nuanced picture than you'd get from just a quick definition. More useful, hopefully.
So maybe the takeaway thought is this. Next time you hear someone talking about efficiency, in policy, at work, even in your own life, when you're making trade-offs, ask yourself, are they talking about Pareto efficiency, just making someone better off without hurting anyone? Or are they talking about something broader? And maybe more importantly, even if something is Pareto efficient, step back and ask that other question. Okay, but is it fair? Is it equitable?
That's a really powerful question to keep in mind. Definitely a lot to think about there. We hope this deep dive into Pareto efficiency has given you some valuable new perspectives.